Welcome to the Weekly Dose Podcast, your one-stop shop for the weekly news in incretin mimetic therapies, with your host, ManOnMounjaro, Dave Knapp. Happy earnings call week. I am Dave Knapp, ManOnMounjaro. That's why I'm here. You are on the pen. Wegovy, Saxenda, Victoza, Trulicity, Mounjaro, Zepbound, Compound, that pen. That's what we talk about here at On the Pen, the Weekly Dose, and we have got a very interesting show. It's all about the shortages, all about compound medications. I'm here to provide some context into what's going on in that world. But if you're just here for the first time, we are a one-stop shop for obesity medicine news. Make sure that you give the podcast a 5-star rating and review. And if you're watching over on YouTube, make sure that you like, subscribe, and hit the bell for notifications for all of the breaking news. You're going to hear it today on the Pen, and you're going to see it tomorrow everywhere else. So let's get into what's going on in the world. Well, this week, Eli Lilly removed every single dosage of Zepbound and Mounjaro off the FDA shortage list. Now, I want to hear it in the chat if you are still dealing with shortages, because we know that what they're reporting to the FDA slaps in the face of the reality on the ground. So let's just get that part out of the way. What we saw in the news this week was nothing short of astounding when Dave Ricks, basically after this big expose in Fortune magazine, which Dave Ricks, the CEO of Eli Lilly, directly gave a shout out to the On the Pen, the community, the Release the Vials campaign, said that all those things are good things. It's good when patients organize. It's unprecedented how we're organizing, and he called it a good thing that we are calling for more medication. Now, we know that Eli Lilly has invested billions and billions of dollars into expanding manufacturing capacity. There was news this week about one of their core partners that helps to provide API, making millions and millions of dollars of infrastructure investment to expand their peptide manufacturing. All things that are really good for the future of accessibility to these medications. But right now, there are simply not enough manufacturing capacity to meet even close to what the demand is for these medications. That's why this week you saw news from Weight Watchers, right? One of the absolute beasts in the telemedicine game, basically announced that they are considering adding compounded medications. Why? Well, because compound medications can be made in the face of FDA declared shortages by 503B pharmacies, which are safe and effective because they're regulated by what? The FDA, right? So you saw these medications go off of this shortage list from Eli Lilly. And the next step that basically happens is the FDA gets to determine whether they take that drug off the master shortage list. If it comes off the master shortage list, 503B pharmacies have 60 days to basically fill their existing orders before the FDA will continue their crackdown on the manufacturing of patented medication. That's essentially what's going on here, is you have these companies that are allowed to sort of skirt the patents of these medications, which these companies do hold. There are patents on semaglutide. There are patents on tirzepatide. Do these pharmaceutical companies want to defend these patents in court? No, they're much more content to defend the pens, which are much cleaner patents to defend. They have histories defending those patents in court. But the peptides are a much harder thing to defend in court. They'd rather not, but you see Eli Lilly really hedging. Why are they hedging? Well, because companies like Weight Watchers, companies like Hims and Hers have entered into the realm of compound medication in a way that really could impact their bottom line. So really what you've seen here is a counter move by Eli Lilly in anticipation of these larger telemedicine companies providing compound versions of their medications. And they have made the calculation that if they just take their medication off of the FDA shortage list, they can shut down compounds. Now, you saw a couple of weeks ago, Eli Lilly went after the research grade versions of these medications pretty aggressively, shutting down the source of those and doing it quite successfully, so that when and if they were able to shut down compounds, there would really be nowhere to turn for patients but the name brand medications. The problem with that is, as we mentioned at the top of this video, there simply is not the accessibility to these medications that they are claiming that there is. So we'll have to watch how this plays out, but be very wary of anyone who's telling you that this is inconsequential, that it will be business as usual. They have 60 days once the FDA announces that it's off the master shortage list, 503B pharmacies. 503As don't even have that. They don't have that grace period. Now, 503A pharmacies are able to make individual compound medications for individualized scripts for people who cannot handle handle the brand name medication, whether it's an injection site reaction or they need the medication mixed with something for side effects. But the ability for these companies to do that in scale like they have the past couple of years is going to go away. And it's going to change the landscape of compound medications in a really major way. That is why it's so important for you to follow this channel. Hit that like, hit that bell, hit that sub if you're on YouTube. If you're following the podcast, make sure you download it, give a 5-star rating and review. Now, this is a really exciting week. I just want to shift for just a moment and give a huge shout out to a new sponsor of this program. Ro, the telemedicine juggernaut, has decided that they want to partner with what we're doing at OnThePen. And let me tell you, when Ro announced that they had a supply tracker tool, which goes hand in hand with the topic of this podcast today. The Ro Tracker tool is a great tool for the community. When I found out that they had that tool, I was all in, just as a content creator, not anybody who was working with Ro or anything, just a fantastic tool. Now you can go to the supply tracker, you can track, basically enter in where you're not finding your medications. And then on the flip side, that tracker tool is going to alert you when other people are finding medicine in your area. Just a great crowdsourcing community tool designed for people that helps accessibility. That's why I knew that Ro over here was the right company to partner with for OnThePen. So Ro is sponsoring the podcast now. And we are so thrilled about that. Now, Ro has a program called Ro Body. Ro Body is a program that combines lifestyle interventions and modifications with medicine where appropriate to help patients lose up to 10 to 15% of their body weight. The best part about it is that they are able to offer this all from the comfort of your couch. Right? So very, very accessible treatment for patients who need medicine. And it is just a really, really great program. I hope that you'll check it out. It's $99 for the first month, $145 after that, plus the cost of medicine. You may pay as little as $25 a month for your medicine because Ro, a telemedicine juggernaut, has become very, very adept at navigating the insurance issues that come up with medications, and they will handle all of that for you. So make sure that you visit ro.co/OTP for OnThePen, ro.co/OTP to learn more about this. Of course, there's important safety information about medications that they provide. All of that information is all there. But thank you to Ro for partnering with OnThePen and really helping to bring more OnThePen, the Weekly Dose podcast, to you, more news. We're so excited for this partnership. Thank you to Ro for seeing what we're doing here at OnThePen as a critical part of patient advocacy. Thank you, Ro. Looking forward to this partnership. Now, moving on through the news this week, there is some really fascinating stuff going on. Of course, we talked about how earnings calls are this week. So we're going to get earnings calls from Amgen. We're going to get earnings calls from Novo Nordisk tomorrow. And we're going to get earnings calls from Eli Lilly on Thursday. We're very, very excited. This is an exciting week. Typically, we follow these very, very closely. We follow the Eli Lilly earnings calls for a couple of years now, really setting the pace for other content creators to do the same. But we learn a lot in these weeks about the current medications. Will be very interesting to hear about AMG 133 and how that trial's going, how they're titrating things there. Will be very interesting to learn more about CagriSema, some potential timelines. Also their amycretin medication that's advancing through trials. And then from Eli Lilly, of course, we want to know, are they releasing the vials? How are they able to take these medications off shortage when it slaps in the face of the reality of what's going on the ground? We will be listening for a lot of things this week. We'll be doing special podcasts, special videos. That's why it's so important to hit that like, hit that bell, hit that sub, stay notified, because you're going to hear it today on OnThePen and you're going to see it everywhere else tomorrow. So if you find getting the news in real time important, that's why you follow this show, because everybody else will be covering it later in the week. Now, we did some really interesting videos on TikTok and YouTube this past week about the FDA shortages, about what we can do to sort of fight back using and leveraging the tools from the FDA to report your shortages so that they know at least, hey, what's going on the ground doesn't track with what we're hearing from Eli Lilly. So we can do that. Link will be in the description of the video. We heard this week about the tirzepatide heart trial. Absolutely amazing news where you saw that the phase 3 trial for HFpEF, which is heart failure with preserved ejection fraction, something that many people with obesity deal with. Has to do with the tightening of the muscles of the heart. Basically, these results showed that they tirzepatide use reduced the risk of heart failure outcomes, heart failure, urgent visits or hospitalization, oral diuretic intensification, and cardiovascular death by 38%. This will be a great backdoor way for Medicare patients to get on tirzepatide. We saw some really interesting news for those. If the compounds go away, accessibility through our insurance is going to become even more important, along with obviously these companies increasing their supply. But semaglutide, the pre-diabetes trial that's been going on for a couple of years, it's called the STEP 10 trial. We got phase 3 results that have been going on for a couple of years now. We got phase 3 results for those with pre-diabetes. This is amazing news, right? 2.4 milligrams of Wegovy in patients with pre-diabetes and obesity saw an 81% of patients with pre-diabetes were able to control their blood glucose and get it into normal range without any additional safety warnings, right? That they hadn't seen in previous trials. And so if you are looking to get on Wegovy for pre-diabetes, this study found at let's see, the ScienceDirect.com website will be a great thing for you to use with your doctor to cite when you're fighting an insurance prior authorization if they don't want to cover it for pre-diabetes. This is medical, basically proof that this medication works to help bring blood sugars down into a normal range for patients with pre-diabetes. Really fascinating news. Moving on through the news for this week, Australia, you saw the addition of the Wegovy pens. So the market in Australia, you'll be getting this. The interesting thing is the way they price the medication. The 0.25 through the 1 milligram are $260 a month. 1.7 milligram is $380, and the 2.4 milligram is $460. Now, the interesting thing about that when we talk about the price of the medication is that in the United States, a study was done that shows that patients on Wegovy are paying 80% are only paying $25 a month for Wegovy through the savings card. So you see that the headlines sometimes aren't as dramatic as they read when you think about the disparity in cost for countries that are single payer like Australia, where you see patients in the United States, by and large, 80% are getting it for $25, which is much cheaper than the $460 you would have to pay overseas in Australia for the 2.4. Now, interestingly enough, most of those additional patients who are not able to get it for $25 are probably getting it for around $500 to $600, which isn't that much more than they're paying for the high dose in Australia. So just kind of a really interesting juxtaposition from a lot of the articles that you see go around about the price of these medications. Weight Watchers, we talked about getting into the game. That's big news. The FDA crackdown on paid medication promotion, of course, that is a big one that we covered this past week in an article that highlights some hot water that Patrick Mahomes' wife got into for making a video about an EpiPen and not pointing people to safety information. Of course, if we're ever talking about specific drugs, obviously at OnThePen, we would point you to the box warnings for these medications, right? So we'll be interesting to see if the FDA, with their new guidance on basically content creators talking about medications, be interesting to see how they sort of handle that. But of course, we'll do everything that we can to bring you safe, effective information here at OnThePen. You can always expect that from us. Now, interestingly, there was a study done in the JAMA network talking about compounded medications. This JAMA article basically found in a study going online and trying to find the different variations of semaglutide that were available online, about 42% of online pharmacies that sell semaglutide, the active ingredient in Wegovy and Ozempic, are illegal, operating without valid licenses and selling medications without prescriptions, right? We talk about this sort of gray market peptide world. 3 out of the 6 websites selling GLP-1s without prescriptions never even delivered the medications. So there's just interesting study if you want to take a closer look at that in the JAMA network. Now, in some fun news, scientists are actually looking at different mechanisms, different ways to administer GLP-1 and incretin mimetic drugs. So we've talked about how there's studies being going on to extract tirzepatide and offer it in pill form. We've talked about just different things. This is a new one. Scientists are studying taking GLP-1s via nasal delivery. So in a nasal spray, and what they're finding, interestingly, is that this may be better for neurodegenerative diseases like Alzheimer's. And so that'll be an interesting one to follow. Link will be in the description of this video about that one. It's going to be a huge week, my friends. Huge week. Can't wait to hear from these companies about what they're doing to increase patient accessibility to these medications, especially Lilly. We're looking at you. Really, thank you very much. Also this week to our friend Erica Fry, who highlighted OnThePen in that amazing article about Eli Lilly in Fortune magazine. We'll be linking that in the description as well. We are doing things. We're making a difference here at OnThePen. Couldn't do it without you. That's why it's so important that you hit that like, hit that bell, hit that sub, share this video, share this podcast with 10 of your friends who might find it beneficial. And of course, the last thing we'll talk about is jumping over to onthepen.com, sign up for email alerts so that you know when we drop our On the GLP-1 book. This is going to be an amazing book that people will be able to read, learn more about the plight of people living with obesity and how these medications are changing the game, as well as a book that you can pass on to your loved ones who may not really understand what these medications are all about and how they work and the future of them. So can't wait for that book to come out. Hope that you'll be interested as well. Sign up for alerts at onthepen.com. so that you know when that book comes out. Thank you for being here. Thank you for being the best part of what we do at OnThePen, the weekly dose. I couldn't do it without you. You all are the best part of what we do. Can't wait to get into these earnings calls this week. Until next week, we will catch you on the pen.